In part 1, I talked about how social media, information overload, and a lack of purpose can fuel anxiety. But there's a deeper layer that I want to explore with you today, because sometimes the real struggle isn't what you're running from, it's what you're not running towards. Hi, my name is Kumail. I'm an accountant by day and an avid reader by night, and in these videos I like to synthesize and explain what I've learned in a way that makes sense. Anxiety, as we explored in the last video, is a very big problem in our society, our communities, and our families. And it's something that we really need to talk about because there are so many of us who are suffering from this. And because it's not a physical suffering, it's very hard to one, diagnose it, and two, to even acknowledge that we are going through something. It's sometimes very hard to even come to terms with the fact that we are anxious or we are going through some sort of inner turmoil, to even admit to someone about it. And sometimes that's where the work is needed, because without admitting it, without going through the first stage of accepting that this is what we're going through, we won't be able to solve these problems or come up with solutions or help each other or help ourselves with these problems if we're going through it, if we haven't acknowledged it for ourselves. So in the last video, I explained 3 reasons why we have so much anxiety in the world that we live in today. And today I want to explore 3 solutions of this problem of anxiety, because I believe that with these solutions, we can overcome anxiety together. Not alone, because we are not alone. We are all together in this. It's not like you in isolation and me in isolation and some other person in isolation. No. We are all together. We are all trying to solve this as humanity, as one, and we are all in it together, and we will help each other to overcome our anxiety in whatever shape or form it takes. So the first solution that I would like to propose today in this video, that I think would really work, is the reason that we are so anxious is because we are not living with a mission. So imagine our scenario of our life as it is today. As an example, we wake up, we go to work, we come back home, we have dinner, we watch some TV, we go to sleep, and repeat. And the next day the same thing, the day after the same thing. Of course we'll feel anxious, because there is nothing driving us, no sense of mission showing us what we need to do. Without a mission, we start to drift, and drifting is dangerous, because when you start drifting, you slowly start slipping away. You slowly start losing your sense of identity and your worth as a human being, and what it is that you need to be doing in this world. And sometimes I feel like it's important to really take account of that. When we start drifting, it leaves the soul restless, disconnected from something greater, disconnected from something that we were created here for. We start losing this sense of why we are here. Why are we living in this world today? What is our why? And that comes up very nicely to a book that I'd recommend by Simon Sinek, a book that I have recommended in the past as well. It's called Start With Why. He's got a second book called Find Your Why, but I think this is probably the more important book, where he really goes into depth on what your why is. Why are you doing? We focus on what and how and all of these things. How am I going to do it? What am I doing? Everyone talks about what am I doing, but no one talks about why I'm doing it. If you don't know your why, if you don't have this mission, then eventually things will be you'll start becoming anxious, because there is nothing to live for, nothing to work towards. Okay, following on from that, so the second reason that I think we have become such an anxious generation, and something that we can use to solve our anxiety, is the fact that we have confused our goals with our purpose. Now, what do I mean? So it's good to chase achievement. You want to have a good job, you want to have the best car, you want to have your next house, you want to win the next race, which is kind of the thing that I'm trying to do here. I'm running a lot at the moment. I've just run my first marathon, and I'm trying to run more and more marathons and run my. But there comes a time where when you confuse the goal with the purpose, when the line becomes very blurred, then anxiety is sitting right there. Because okay, we'll start achieving one goal, the second goal, the third goal, but then eventually when you achieve all your goals, then what? Then what? Because you confused your purpose with your goals, the goal that you want to try and achieve, and you think that is your purpose. Then eventually you'll start living in a vacuum, because you'll feel like, I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve, now what? And I gave the example of Michael Phelps in the last video, where Michael Phelps was actually depressed after he achieved his gold medal, because he had nothing to work towards. He had nothing to live for anymore, because he achieved everything he wanted to achieve. So let's not confuse our goals with our purpose, because goals are temporary, whereas purpose is something deeper, something more fundamental within ourselves, that allows us to explore who we are. See, because it's not what you do that defines you, but it's who you're becoming and what you're contributing towards that defines the person you are. And when we start to understand and realize that, then we will be able to come to terms with our anxiety, because it's no longer about chasing the next dopamine hit. It's about fulfilling something greater. And that comes on very, very nicely to the third solution that I'd like to offer in this video, and probably I think the most important one, that if we realize what it is, then I think we will slowly try and overcome this anxiety. It won't disappear, for sure it won't disappear, but slowly we will start understanding why we are anxious, and then help ourselves and help other people to overcome our anxiety, our anxiousness, our depression, our loneliness. And this third reason, which I think is probably the most powerful, as I said, is that we have forgotten that we were created with intention. We have forgotten that we have been created with intention. When God brought me to this world, He brought me for a very specific purpose. There are a lot of things that we can talk about when it comes to purpose and what God wants out of us in this one life that we have been given, been gifted. We can talk a lot about it, but I don't want to focus on that. All I want to say is, I want to remind myself and other people and everyone else who's watching this, but myself primarily, that we have been created with an intention, a purpose for which God has brought us into this. And when we start realizing that this is the reason why we're here, then we stop confusing our goals with our achievements. We stop chasing the things that are making us unhappy. When you chase for goals, there reaches a time where as soon as the first goal is finishing, you're going to the next goal and the next goal and the next goal. And then you reach a point where you're like, I've forgotten how to be happy. I'm not happy anymore. I'm achieving all these goals, but I'm not happy anymore. Like, the whole point of achieving these goals was to make me happy. But if I'm not happy, then I need to question myself and ask, what am I doing? What am I doing all this for? You're not an accident. You are here for a purpose, for an intention, and you are here for a reason. And to me, I think that a book that brings that to light is this book here called Driven by Purpose by Mushtaq al-Atabi. A brilliant, phenomenal, fantastic book that I would highly recommend you to read, because it's not a theoretical book. It's a very practical book. It goes through, it has exercises where, look at this. So you fill out, you have exercises where you fill things out in here, where you look at this. This is all my working. And it asks you deep questions. He explores the concept of ikigai, which is the 4-step model, where what are you good at? You ask yourself, what are you good at? What will the world pay you for? What does the world need? And what do you enjoy? And the Venn diagram that brings all of these 4 aspects together is what defines your purpose in the middle, because that is a combination of all of your things. And in this book, he goes through some exercises where we start investigating and understanding for ourselves what are the things that we're good at and what the world needs, that we think the world needs, what we enjoy, etc., etc. So it's a very practical book, and I highly recommend reading this book at least once, if not more than once, to try and understand what your purpose is. I'll read a couple of things. This book has so much. So he starts off with chapter 1 called, the title of the chapter is Why Purpose. Going back to Simon Sinek, start with why. Why do we even want to talk about the why? The first thing he does is he quotes a quote by Mark Twain. And Mark Twain says, "The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why." The day you find your purpose. And you know what? Purpose is not one of those things that just comes to you. You have to work for it, you have to investigate, you have to understand, you have to know yourself really well to be able to really know what your purpose is. And it's a journey, it's a lifelong journey, and you should enjoy it. Because it was all about the journey. God did not create us for God did not create us for the destination. He created us for the journey of this life. Otherwise, what's the point? If it was just a destination, someone could achieve it in 2 minutes, and then what? Done, finished. Let's go to paradise. It's achieved. But it's about the journey. It's about the person you become as a result of traversing this path, this journey that you take. It's not about what you achieve at the end of it. It's the person you become through this process of walking this path, which I think is, to me, the most powerful reason that we can use to overcome anxiety, because it's all about the journeys. We have this life is ups and downs, and the whole point is we are supposed to ride these waves in life, because it's a part and parcel of life. In Arabic, I've quoted this before, there's a saying that says, "Yawmun lak wa yawmun alayk." There is a day that's for you and a day that's against you. Essentially, you have highs and lows in life. That's just natural. Everyone has that. You're not unique in having that. Just because you have a low doesn't mean that you're the only person in the world who has a low or who's ever suffered a low. In fact, I can guarantee you a lot of other people in the world at the same time are suffering almost the same low that you're suffering, or a similar low that you're suffering. And they are also trying to overcome their lows in life as well. And so are you. And we are all on this journey. And that's why I'm saying we are all on this journey together. Even when we overcome anxiety, it's not like you are suffering in a corner at one end and thinking that you're the only one. We are all together in this. We are all trying to overcome anxiety together, trying to walk this journey of life together, because we're not competing against each other. This whole capitalistic mindset has made us, has fashioned us in this way, and to think this way, that we have to compete against each other. We don't. We genuinely do not need to compete against each other. We are all here together. We coexist with love and with harmony, and we help each other to achieve and fulfill our dreams and purposes and missions in life. Because what better purpose in life would you have than to achieve another person achieve their purpose in life? Because the pleasure I would get at that would be phenomenal. So anyway, Mushtaq al-Altabi then continues in the next paragraph. He talked about Friedrich Nietzsche. So he said Friedrich Nietzsche believed that the primary objective of philosophy is to guide us in becoming our true selves, driven by a profound yearning to discover the purpose of our lives. This is the whole point and mission of our existence in this world. It is to discover this purpose. It is to become the person that we have to become through this journey of life as we walk through. It's not about a destination or a goal. It's about the process of becoming. It's a journey itself that is important. And then he talks about Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl is the Auschwitz survivor who survived the Holocaust. He was a psychologist, a psychoanalyst, and he wrote a very famous book. This was a book that he composed while of all the thoughts that he was going through in the Holocaust, while he was in the concentration camps in the Holocaust. And when you read this book, it is so profound, because it shows how even in the depth of the depth someone can discover purpose. Because what Viktor Frankl taught me is you can change everything that you want on your outside. Everything can be the worst ever, but she cannot get to a person's inside, their heart and their very soul, because their soul is what defines a person. Viktor Frankl was the soul of Viktor Frankl, not the body. The body that was tortured, the environment that was torturing did not define Viktor Frankl. His soul defined him, his heart defined him, his mission in life defined him. And that's what I'm trying to discover for myself. This, when we live through this life, it's more than just a bodily existence. It's a soul that is existing through. And that's why when I lose a limb, I don't say, oh, Kumail has died, or Kumail has lost his hand. Yes, but I'm still Kumail for as long as I'm breathing. And then now there's a whole philosophical debate whether when a person is brain dead, is that the identity of the person, is that lost? Do you still define him? I think you still do, because as long as the soul is breathing and a soul is still there and there's still life, that person is defined by that. You take away every single body part of a person and you would still say that is that person. But then you draw a line and say, okay, then what if when you take his heart away, then what? I mean, there's a whole philosophical discussion that this is probably beyond the scope of this video anyways. But the whole point of this identity is defined by the soul. It is a soul that defines who I am. And in the modern world that we live in, how do I define myself? Oh, I am Kumail. I am an accountant who lives in the West, who works a 9-to-5 job, who travels around the world when he can, who does this, who does that, who's got a family, whatever. Like, that's what we define ourselves now. Of course we'll be anxious because we haven't gone to the root of it. We've just defined our lives in a very flat way, very, very, very mundane way. But there's something deeper within us that we need to explore and investigate for ourselves. Something deeper, something more purposeful, something that will drive us to find our purpose, will spark that light within us, and find out for ourselves who we are and who we need to become. Because God created us for this reason. So anxiety becomes a signal, not a setback. The reason I'm anxious is because it's telling me something about myself. It's not a setback, it's a signal pointing you back to your path. When I'm chasing all my goals and then I reach a point when I think and I tell myself, hold on, this is not making me happy. That is actually good for me. It's actually a trigger to tell me, wake up, brother, wake up. It's time you woke up, because you want to die before you die. If you've watched The Matrix, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because I want to wake up out of the Matrix. I want to take the blue pill or the red pill, one of the two pills, whichever one that made me wake up. I can't remember, it was a very long time ago. But the whole point is I want to wake up and live a fulfilled life, live a life full of purpose for the reason God created me. And anxiety is actually really good for me. It's actually very good because it wakes me up, it gives me a jolt, and it tells me enough is enough. It's time you woke up and found the purpose for which you are created for, and found the reason for which you are created for. So, in summary, we say that there are 3 solutions that we would like to present to overcome anxiety, to overcome anxiousness and loneliness that we are currently living in. The first one is that we're not living with a mission. So I described how we should find our why, and I recommended Simon Sinek's book Start With Why to help us discover what our why is. Number 2, I said we've confused our goals with our purpose. Our goals, chasing dopamine hits, chasing all of these things, these worldly things that we think we are chasing to make us happy, but actually we have lost our sense of purpose and belonging and the reason why we are created in the first place. And the third thing that I offered as a solution to help us, and probably the most important, is that we've forgotten that we were created with a purpose. There was a reason why God brought us into this world, and it is our journey of becoming, our journey of discovering this purpose that defines our life. And I recommended this book called Driven by Purpose by Mushtaq Al-Atabi, a very practical book, a book which I actually didn't mention, but it actually talks about finding your mission statement in life, finding out what it is that you really want to achieve in life, and what your purpose is and what your superpower is, what defines you as a person. So a lot about identity, purpose, achievement, etc. Achievement in a purpose sense, not in a goal sense. And I also recommended this book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, who again was an Auschwitz survivor, and he had a profound impact on me as well, because he showed us that it's not about the physical circumstances that determine who you are. It is your emotional, psychological, mental and spiritual circumstances that define who you are. It is your soul that is your identity, not your body or your circumstances as such. So if you're feeling anxious, maybe it's not just the noise around you. Maybe it's the silence within, the part of you crying out for meaning. Find your purpose, reconnect with your Creator, and remember, anxiety doesn't always mean you're broken. Sometimes it's the start of your awakening. Thank you very much. I hope to see you soon.